What's up, guys? It's about to crack a noon right now. If I can do this. There we go. And we're getting started. I don't really know what I want to do today. I'm still in that little funk of like, we already did most of like the easy stuff, like just stuff that had to be like bolted on. And now it's like the thought process type stuff, and woo, I am not attention span great on my own to do stuff like that. But we're out here, it's Wednesday, my day off, and we're gonna get something done. What do you think, Chris?
Think good.
Thinking good. Chris got some funny business done in his mouth today, so and it was professional, don't worry. But today I think I'm finally gonna try to do the fuel system. It's pretty straightforward. It's just plugging a bunch of stuff together and going. So real quick, I'm gonna go over what all I chose to get for my fuel system, and then you guys can compare it to what research you've done and what parts you've found. If you want to go with something a little more pricey, if you want to go with a pre-sorted out kit, whatever, it's up to you. So I'm going to tell you what I got, where I got it from, and about how much I spent on it, because some of it I can't remember exactly. But okay, so first off, I got a new sending unit for the 95. That way it fits perfectly in the 95's tank. So the only reason I did that mainly was because our fittings here on the end that connect to the lines were twisted, and the hard pipe was twisted. Man, what's on? So we need that to be straight. And then other than that, I think the sending unit was the factory one, so it's probably good to just go ahead and get a new one. Got that at AutoZone or O'Reilly's, one of them. They're all the same for 60, 70 bucks, something like that. So boom, you're in 70 bucks right there, brand new sending unit. Then I ordered a fuel pump. This is a Walbro 255. I know it's in weird packaging, but this is the parent company that makes the Walbro 255. So that's the fuel pump. That was 110 bucks. Those go for about 100 bucks anywhere you look. Holly, Summit, wherever, anywhere. Just pick that up wherever you can. But it's a Walbro 255. And you might consult your tuner if you're going to use one, of what exact model number to get. I got a GCA 758. That's the one my tuner said to get. So, because there was like, when you type in Walbro 255, there's like 30 of them with different model numbers. So that might matter to some people, to others it may not. The next thing was the fuel filter. I also got that at O'Reilly's or AutoZone. I don't remember. That was 6 to 10 bucks. I don't remember exactly how much. Then at our local speed shop here in OKC, Central Speed Supply, went and picked up these quick connect fittings. You need one of two different sizes. You need one of 5/16 and one of 3/8. And where those will go is those will snap on to the factory fuel rail right here. Those were 16 a piece, 16 to 20 bucks a piece. And fittings are high as shit. All y'all know that. So if you find a better deal on the same thing, get it somewhere else, whatever. Then these fittings, they're just push locks for 6AN, and for y'all that don't know, 3/8 is 6AN. That's the same thing. So I went to my local hydraulic hose shop that I deliver to, American Hose and Supply. They hooked me up with this 3/8 hose, and it's combo. They call it combo hose. It's good for air and fuel. It's rated for 400 PSI, and it's not going to corrode with fuel. It's fuel rated. So if you guys are doing E85, you might look into something else, like PTFE coated or something like that. But for us, we're just going to use pump gas, so we'll be fine with this. This was 92 cents a foot. So I went ahead and got 40 feet, I think, or 35. Most kits say you need 30 feet. I ordered 40, and I'm gonna measure out how I do it today, and I'm gonna let you guys know exactly how much I used. So if y'all go to your hose shop and get some hose cut, you can get closer to what you need. I don't mind having a little extra because I'm sure I'll use it somewhere else. And so, like I said, that was 92 cents a foot, and then these fittings were like $1 a piece or something like that. They were dirt cheap. Then the next thing that you need to do it the way that I'm going to do it is go to hotrodfuelhose.com, and I left his card here. He left a little code. I don't know if I'm supposed to do this or not, but you use the code BizCard2020 and you save 10% on an order, and it says share with a friend, and all you guys are my friends, so do that. Anyways, what these two fittings are, they're two different sizes. One's the 3/8 and one's a 5/16 2-6. These screw onto your sending unit right here so that you can have an AN fitting that this will screw onto. And then we'll push our hose onto that, and then we'll go on to the filter, another one onto one of these, which will go onto the fuel rail, so on and so forth. So let's get to slapping everything together, see how it goes. And I'll try to make sure that to include all the measurements of the hose and how long everything I did was, and how long you might need to do it exactly like I did it, and we'll go from there. One more thing to say about the hot rod fuel hose, these two fittings that go on the sending unit. I looked and looked and looked. Metric fittings are very hard to find. Very hard to find. All my hydraulic shops didn't have them. They're like, well, we can order them, but it'll probably take a long time, blah blah blah. And this dude has them, so I think what he did was ordered all 10, 100,000 million of them, and he's sitting on all of them. So smart man on his part. But anyways, it's only like 10 bucks for both of these fittings, but this is where they go. You can't get them backwards because one's bigger, it's 3/8, the other one's smaller at 5/16. They only fit one way or the other. You can't mess that up. They say to go hand tight and then just like a quarter turn or so after. They have O-rings in them, not the fittings, but the sending unit has O-rings on it. So you don't have to go stupid tight, and you could go too tight and smash that O-ring out of there, so you don't want to do that. But I would say just do it hand tight and then just do like a quarter turn with the wrenches, and then wait till you get it all hooked up, turn it on, and watch it when you turn it on. Make sure you don't have a fuel leak. If you don't have a leak, it's tight enough. So next up, I'm going to get the pump itself out, and we're going to mount the pump up. Alright, so in the Walbro box, they included their own pigtail cup, couple hose clamps, the strainer, which is, oh, it's a sealed bag. Strainer. So if I was you, I would use like the pigtail and probably the hose, and I would use the stuff that comes with the Walbro instead of the stuff that comes with the sending unit, just because this is from whatever manufacturer they choose to make this, and it's probably a lot cheaper made than the Walbro stuff. Plus, you know, this is made for the Walbro stuff. So on the bottom of the pump, they always put a cap on this. You can take that off, and then from what I understand, these just push on and they should snap. Okay, it like twist locked. Yeah, that ain't coming on. Okay, so it just kind of twists on. It was kind of stiff, so be careful, because I really feel like if you did that hard enough, you would rip this, and then you'd be in bad shape. So the next thing up, let's go ahead and clip the pigtail in. Let's see, is it that side? Should be. Okay, it's just really snug. Push that all the way down till it clicks. we got? Oh, that's for the bottom. Ah, I should probably put the strainer on after. Oh, it's on there now. There we go. So let's set it on this boot. Set it down in here. And looks like it'll work out pretty good. I've always been told when you're putting the pump in that you always put the pump closer to this support rod. That way you can secure it to it a little easier. Now this is where in the sending unit kit they had this little sleeve, which I'll probably go ahead and use that. It just so happens to be the right diameter. Pretty tight. Alright, so we got that pretty well together. I don't know if I should tuck it over this boot or not, but I'll go ahead and do it. Just keep it snug. Alright, so let's set that down in there. And I don't guess it really matters. You want to kind of get it to where this hose lines up with the pickup pretty well, which right there it's almost in line. Since that's so close, we'll go ahead and get that cut and set on here so it's a little bit easier to slide together. Alright, so we'll try to bottom it out, or at least as far as it'll go. And then we need to be at least up here. So we'll cut this right here. I'm ghetto, I got a razor. You could use a knife or whatever you want to use. Alright, so we made our cut. I was about to do it too. So always make sure you put your hose clamps on before, or else you're gonna have to take it back off, put your hose clamps back on. It's pretty tight, guys, so just be patient and slide it on there without ripping it or bending anything. You'll probably want to slide it on first. It's gonna be
Oh, there you go. Oh, yeah, first time.
sometimes twisting a little bit will help. All right, there we go. So it bottomed out there, and then we've got to try to, that wasn't so bad. And then this rubber boot, it kind of sticks through like as an insulator. So make sure you've got that seated down in there pretty good, which I think we do. It's sticking out pretty decent. We're all the way down. We're past the lip on this side, so I'd say we're probably in good shape. So let's go ahead and get these hose clamps tightened down. I'm gonna get a screwdriver. They're a little bit too snug. All right, good old Phillips. If you wanted to, you'd get the nut driver for that. I'm not sure what size it is. It's on you to figure that out. We're gonna put this hose clamp right here. You always want to put your hose clamp about halfway between the end and where that little lip was on each side. You want to put the hose clamp to where it's like in between that, so it has a good like pinch around that barb. And the screwdriver is a little too small. You don't need to tighten this down like stupid. Just enough to where you can kind of see it's kind of digging into, not digging into it, but just enough to where it won't spin around. All right, so we've got it secured down. Got our hose clamp on. Let's get our strainer on. It doesn't twist lock, it just pushes on. I thought it did. So just make sure that's pushed on there good. Yeah, we're good. And then onto our wiring. We got this pigtail. They're all labeled. This one is A. The A circuit is black, the B circuit is red. And then on this one, the A is black and the B is red. It matches. And we might be so lucky as to get it fitting right up. And it did. Right on. So we don't have to, sometimes you'll get these universal ones and your pigtails are a little bit different. So all you would do on that connector is you would just have to cut these and splice them together. But we got lucky today and they actually just went right together. There we go. And then we'll run a zip tie around the pump itself to this rod just to make sure it never tries to wiggle out on us. Yeah, that's good. All right. So that's all we need to do as far as the pump. It's on. We made sure we put our insulator on, secured it down. We've got our insulator through the other side of the cup. Got the strainer on, got our hose clamps tight. We got lucky and our electrical connections went right together. Zip tied those up so they can't be in the way. I'll go ahead and trim these zip tie ends off so they're not in the way. Alright, so we got it all set up. Just for reference, this is our old one. It's pretty clapped out. If it's not the original one, it's old. And you can see up here where a couple of the lines got cut. That one's twisted. This one cut and had hose clamps on it. These, from what I understand, run at like 10 to 20 psi. LS's run at about 60 psi. So that wouldn't have cut it. We would have ruptured a line on the soft side. So that's why I went through the motion of getting the better rated hose. Now I have heard that if you start out with a V8 truck and it's one of the 97 and 98s that have the spider injection, those run at a higher PSI, and they say you'll be fine with those hoses. So it's up to you how you want to do it. Like how I bought my hose for 92 cents a foot, hot rod fuel hose, where you get these tank fittings. He sells you a whole kit. He'll sell you the pump, he'll sell you the hose and the fittings, everything you need. It's a full kit, and I want to say it's like somewhere between $300 and $400. So it's pretty affordable, but as I told you guys earlier, I got about $100 in mine, so it just depends how much work you want to do. If you want to do the cutting and putting the push locks together, then you can save some money and go my way. If you're not comfortable with doing all that, you can buy his kit, and it comes pretty much ready to just slap together. So that's up to you. Drop that in first, then drop your strainer in, drop it all in, make sure your O-ring's sitting in the right spot, which it's kind of not. Just be patient with this part, because if that O-ring is not in the right spot, then it's obviously not going to seal. And then the sending unit has these little tabs where it's supposed to be, which I'm thinking is right about there. Alright, and you'll see that this ring kind of sits under these lips, and then what you're supposed to do is take you a little flathead screwdriver or something like that and kind of tap this ring and lock it in place till these lock tabs are under each one of these triangles. So we've got quite a bit to turn. So let me get a screwdriver. Get your screwdriver on the edge of one of those teeth. And just lightly tap it in. You don't want to bend that tab, because you'll get yourself in a pretty big bind if you bend it. So just lightly tap it. You can see it's getting close. It's coming up on the lip. Alright. It's a little bit off. This one's up against it, these aren't, but it's that higher spot in the ring is under each one of these little tabs. So we're pretty good and secure in there. I'd say that's fine. So now we'll move on to getting the hoses in place. So I may take the filler neck off while I'm putting these other fittings on, and then we'll put it back on later. But all right, so we've got that. This will clip into your body harness, which is right there. And then this ring right here is where this ground would go. But what we'll do is we'll scratch this up, which looks like wasn't done very well before anyways. But we'll scratch this real clean with some sandpaper, get it nice shiny metal so we have a good solid connection for our ground. And then find a bolt for that, because apparently it's not here anymore. Alright, so I did that thing that I always do and got really sidetracked Wednesday. Sidetracked. I don't know English. I got kind of really like over concerned about the whole evap situation, because I looked into that, and if you block that off, then you have to make sure the tank can vent in some way. And I was like, oh, well, it can't do that through the filler neck. And they're like, no, that doesn't work, because when you have the gas cap on, this vent does not vent because the gas cap's blocking that. So your solution to that is I used, which it's not here yet, I'll show it in a future video whenever it gets here. It'll probably get here this week. Tanks Inc. makes a really nice rollover vent valve. So what that is it's a breather vent, and in the event that the truck is ever tipped over or upside down, there's a check ball in that vent, and if it's tilted over, the check ball closes it and it can't leak gas out. So like your classic movie fires, when a vehicle rolls over and you see the gas dripping, that's what that is. So basically its line will go from here, and I'll probably cut this up here since it doesn't matter. I'll cut it up here and then hose clamp it, and I'll run this hose up beside the vent that comes up to the filler neck up here, and basically just zip tie it to it so it's kind of vertical, and then we'll just have that vent right here sticking up inside the bed. So there's a couple ways to do this that I looked up, and the main only downfall is you're gonna get if it's purging, you're gonna get the smell of gas fumes, and if you park in a garage or something, you probably don't want that. But it's not really a hazard as far as fires or anything like that, so it's not that big of a deal to do that. But yeah, so there's that. I'm ordering that. That solves our evap venting problem. So like I said, Wednesday now I'm going to get to pulling all the OEM lines out, pull the factory filter out, and get to putting the new lines in, which I don't think it'll take that long, but we'll see how that goes. So coming under here, like where all our lines come up to the pump up there, there's no securement up there. So far I'm only noticing we've got one retainer here, which we'll probably keep there at least for the electrical, and it'll probably hold our lines up, but it'll be a little different because we have soft lines, not these, so we'll figure out a solution there to hold our lines up in place. We got another mount here, and then our filter, which we're replacing, and then we switch into another joint of hard lines, and then right here it turns into a soft line, and this here would have went up to the factory engine. Now mind you, these are V6 lines, so they're in a different spot, I think, than where the 5.7 would be. Ooh, whatever that weld was penetrated good. But anyways, so I'm gonna get to kind of removing all this. I'll probably leave the brackets for now, but I'll get to taking all these lines out and then start putting in our new stuff. Alright, so from the tank side, this is what your fuel lines look like. That's your fuel filter, and this is that little hard line clamp that kind of comes off sideways from the frame. That's where that clamps down, and then these are your little bendy points where it comes up the firewall right here on an OBS. So I don't need any of this. We're going to replace this all with soft line. So what I'm going to do is oh, and also the way I took this out, you could unscrew all this stuff and take it out in sections, but what I did was we already had it undone from the tank, and it's obviously been undone from this side for a long time. So what I did was just I undid it from all the clips and then just pushed it out the front, you know, just slid it all the way out. Worked fine. So that's one way of doing it. If you got the truck lifted up enough to do, I don't think you'd have to have it in the air to do that. It could be on the ground. But just slide your lines out the front of the truck or the back, either way it doesn't matter. The front's easier because then you're not fighting the tank, the gas tank. You're just sliding it out the open space. So. And then this would have been your evap line. We're getting rid of that, so that's might as well take it out. Shouldn't leave it in there if we're not going to use it. There is all those little retainers that held the 4 lines together. Notice you only see 3 here. One of those, the inside most closest to the frame rail, is it's a brake line that goes to the driver's side rear. So you obviously want to leave that, and I'm going to leave the clips there, at least for that one. I might like break the clips so it's just enough to hold that one line and not in the way. And then I'm going to have to find some different clips, something that like cups a pair of these lines together like that, because we'll have a feed and a return, clamps them together like that and bolts to the frame. I'll have to order some clamps up for that way we can have this fuel line secured up in the frame rail. So next step is I'm gonna set the fuel filter in its holder and get its position kind of set, and then we'll start stringing some line through and start getting some fittings put on. Let's get to it. Alright, so I stuck the new filter in here. Make sure when you're doing this, you look at your filter. It should have a little arrow on it that says flow, or it won't say flow, but it'll have an arrow. The arrow is the direction that fuel goes through the filter, which it comes from the tank that way to the engine, so that you need to make sure it's that way. This filter, it's an OEM replacement from AutoZone or O'Reilly's, wherever. It's a little bit slimmer than the old one, so it sits in here loose. So what I'm gonna do is, you could do this a couple different ways. You could wrap it in like some electrical tape or something so it sits in here tight, or you could get a couple like the cut off end of a zip tie or something and just put a couple shims in here so it's tight. I think it'd be a good idea to have this in there tight and not wobbling around, just to reduce movement of all the fuel lines. So we're gonna get that shimmed up, and then I'm gonna get some hose in here. Get some hose. And I think I'm gonna start with the tank side first. We'll connect to the tank, that way we know how long that is, come down here and then cut this to length, get that hooked up, and then we'll move forward. Alright, I just want to make sure I showed y'all before I got too carried away and forgot to show these push locks. A couple people asked about these push locks. So it's really tight to push this on. I mean, it takes a little effort to get this pushed on, but if you push it all the way in and bottom it out, these barbs, these double barbs, make sure you get past this second one pretty good. So you have to get past this one, and then for insurance you want to get past this second one a little bit, so that when that bow of the, I don't know if y'all can see the ridges, but how the material bows on the second ridge, that gives that barb something to catch, so this hose can't come apart. So I just want to make sure I showed y'all that. A lot of people don't agree with this. They want to use the braided PTFE whatever AN hose, and that's perfectly fine. If that's what you want to do it. But I can tell you that stuff is about triple the cost of 92 cents a foot, and I think these were less than $1 a fitting. So this is my cheap solution, and for all y'all that doubt it, that say it's gonna suck, it's gonna leak, it's gonna rip apart, whatever, we're gonna put it on the truck, and you know what, come a couple months down the road or however long, if it starts leaking from those joints and I can definitely say that it's failing because of, you know, one of these fittings, or this rips apart or something, then by all means I will have proved that to you guys, that this in fact is cheaper and doesn't work. If it goes on for a long time and it doesn't leak and doesn't fail, then I'll prove to you guys at that point that this solution does work. Yeah, it's not as clean, yeah, it's not as common, but it is much cheaper and it does the job. For me, I don't care about the look of fuel lines because most of it's all in the fuel rail anyways. Can't see the fuel line here, can't see it here. You'll only see it when it comes up right here and goes into this. So you'll only see this much of the fuel line. And really, if you wanted to be a smartass, you would take that hose and get you some of this braided, I forget the official name for this, but this is like sleeve for wiring, snake skin, that's it. So you would get this for the right diameter of your fuel hose and slide that over your fuel hose and then it's braided. Now if anybody's like, oh, this looks like crap. Well, for the little bit that you see up in the engine bay, oh, yeah, you would just get that braided covered stuff and just slide it over there.
Water hose and get some big snake skin.
I wonder how much PSI regular garden hose is.
The water hose that extends once it has pressure.
The stretchy. That'd probably mess up.
Oh, it just.
If you made it long enough and then fueled it up, it'd slink all under the. Woo! All right, but there that is. We're gonna start slinking this under, and I guess let's do our feed first. We'll do that first, and then we'll move on to the return. All right, here we go. All right, boys and girls, it's been a while since I updated you, but I did run the return side. I just kind of strung it all the way through. I tightened up this side first. And then I did a couple zip ties right here beside the tank. I don't think y'all are going to be able to see it, but basically I just zip tied the two lines together so they'd kind of stay close. And then let's go downtown. Turn the light on that I always forget to use. So I'm going to stick my hand, the camera won't be able to see it very good. Y'all might be able to see it way up there. They're zip tied together. And then I'm gonna stick my hand as far up there as I can with a zip tie and try to zip tie it together. And then we're gonna try, I might get a drill or something, or I might just zip tie it this way. That's probably what I'll do, because the other ones were hard lines, so they just went through this. But the electrical line goes right here, so we'll leave that in that. And then we'll just run these, let me see, just for mock-up. Probably do these like this. And do them like that. I'll zip tie them together so that they're zip tied to themselves. And then I'll run a zip tie up. Probably one crisscross and then one crisscross the other way. Zip tie them babies up like that. And run a couple up so they're nice and good and tight. And then pull this back through. That, zip tie that, run a zip tie right here because this is the return. And then I need to retighten these because when I was pushing this clamp on, I should have done that outside the truck, but I did it down here. It loosened these like finger tight, so I'm gonna tighten those up a little bit with the wrench. And then, okay, the factory way, the hard lines went off of this and they went across and they mounted to some kind of tab up on the transmission. I think the way I'm going to do it, I'm going to actually unbolt this mount so it's out of the way, and then zip tie the lines up there, and then sorry about that, zip tie them farther up here. There's a natural loop in the wiring right here, so I'll probably try to run these in between that, and then we'll go basically right under the master cylinder and steering column, about in line with where my hand is. We'll try to stay on the well, from where we're looking right now, I'm gonna try to stay on the left side of the manifold. Which, speaking of that, I realized today that those headers were not gonna work. If y'all can see, I went and stole the Y pipe off of the 01 we've got sitting out there, and which, you know, came off of an LS. Now, given we're not using stock headers, but they're supposed to be LS headers, the flange is oriented the wrong way, and it's, you know, a fixed flange. I can't spin it or rotate it. So basically this Y pipe will not bolt up to these headers. And then the more and more I look at it, the way that the pipe would fall straight out of this, it's going to hit the frame. It's just going to. We've been kind of thinking that the more and more as time goes on, and this is O2 wiring, so we've been kind of thinking that, and then the more and more we look at it, it's like, dude, that's going to be a problem. So, well, that one's even worse. So my good buddy Kiki, I don't know how he really prefers. I just call him Keenan, but Kiki, it's McCrary Racing. I'll tag his channel because he's done a bunch of LS how-tos when he built his OBS, and some of you guys might enjoy seeing some of his stuff. He didn't go into great detail on a lot of stuff, but he did show every part of the process, which I took a lot of notes from him as well when I was kind of doing my research. But anyways, he sent me a link to some Schoenfeld Headers. They're long tubes, and they're basically the only ones that fit an LS swap in these trucks. So damn it all, I had to spend more money, ordered those up, and then so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get these lines zip tied up like I said, and kind of probably up to about this point right here, and then I'm going to wait, and I'm not going to put the this end of the fittings on yet that go to the fuel rail here. This is my feed I already have ran up. I still need to cut this. Once I get those fixed out of the way, and like I said, they'll come up probably right in here, right under the column. Excuse me, this is where the steering column would go through. So we'll probably just come up right here and just kind of shoot across. I don't really know. I would have rathered it came up the transmission, but with the long tubes down there, I don't know how well that's going to go, and I may change my mind. I may move them across to the transmission. So I'm going to keep that bracket I said I'm going to take off. I'm going to keep that around, and when we get the long tubes put on, I'm going to kind of lay the fuel lines a couple different ways and see which way I think that they look better or they're going to be safer. And then what I've got, I'm not going to buy the tube insulation because I already have some of this when I made my own turbo blanket. So this stuff is heat shielding, and it's rated to like, I made a turbo blanket out of it, if that tells you anything. So it's rated for good heat. What I'm gonna do is take that and just kind of wire tie it along the fuel lines wherever they're next to the headers, like right next to them, because those get pretty damn hot. So we'll get the headers in first and then put them on, and then we'll finalize where the fuel lines go, and then we'll insulate them and go from there. So let me get that kind of zip tied up so y'all can get a better idea, and then we'll go ahead and close the video out there. All right, so it might look ghetto, and I'm sure I'll come up with a better solution later, but I'm only zip tying to there for now until I get the headers, because I don't want to zip tie all this and then have to cut it all back off and redo it again. But basically, this gives you an idea. This clip is bolted to the frame, so I had them basically side by side right here and zip tied them together, and you can see they're pretty solid in there. This is a little loose. I'll figure out something to make this a little tighter, and I tighten these fittings up. They're a little loose, but other than that, I think it'll be fine. Once we get the long tubes in here and I know how much I need to insulate on this, it'll be fine. So yeah. Alright, so I got the fuel lines kind of jimmied up here. I went ahead and snipped this one off. I'm going to label it return just for redundancy, since I've got this one labeled feed. You know, this one's obviously return, but I'm the kind of guy to get that mixed up, so we're going to label that. Other than that, I think that's plenty, you know, depending on which way I run the lines, whether I decide to turn to the transmission or not. This, you know, about extra 8 inches or so should be fine to get us there. I showed you guys the Famunda. We got our tank side all tightened up and pretty looking with our hot rod fuel hose, metric adapters, 2 AN, and then I still need to clean this up and put this back on and get this clipped up and get this ground put on, but I'll do that later. Probably when the we'll do a part 2 on the fuel system when the that rollover vent tube comes. I'll get that and then get this put back together and then get the filler hose back on there so you guys can see what I was talking about on that rollover vent hose. But yeah, I kind of got put in a spot since the headers aren't going to work. I can't really get an idea of where the fuel lines need to go. So yeah, and for those wondering, remember when I said I bought 40 feet just because I measured this out. This is extra. I measured it out and it was about 16 feet. So what, 40 to 16? I went to Choctaw. What is that? 40 to 16, 30, 24. So you need 24 feet. If you do the stock location filter, some people do the returnless style with the Corvette filter. You can do that, but if you have this fuel rail, that doesn't work, because then you have a return line right here and you're spewing fuel everywhere. So I don't know how you would go about that. I didn't even look into it. I just stayed with the stock filter and redid the fuel system the stock way. So other than that, that's about it for this one. I'll do a little like part 2 on the fuel system whenever the other stuff comes in. We'll get that all buttoned up, and I'll wait till the headers are in so I can put those headers on and basically wrap up the fuel system, get it done. Trying to make sure I didn't forget one. Yeah, that's about it. And other than that, got an old taco here, and we got a little bit of business to do, so I'm gonna get cleaned up. We're gonna go on into the office and flex that brand new computer I got and get some business solutions figured out, since we've both dipped into a couple different areas of selling merch and how to get it out there, and it's time we take matters into our own hands as far as shipping and fulfillment. So we're gonna have a little powwow on that and put our minds together and get with old wifey Ashley and see if we can get some merch solutions figured out for you guys for MattyXBuilds and OG Taco stuff. So y'all stay tuned for that. Other than that, that's it for tonight. We're out. Peace out. See you later. Bye.